Okay, in this video today I'm going to go through how to install a new brake rotor and brake pads on this 2007 Nissan Xterra four-wheel drive. Right now I have the car, I have the wheel off, I have it jacked up, I have a jack stand underneath just in case, and I have a set of new Duralast Gold brake pads, and I've got that comes with a hardware kit, and I've got my new rotor. The rotors were about 35 bucks, and the set of pads was I think 40 bucks. In addition to the pads and the rotors, just gonna make sure I had some good brake cleaner. I have to use a little bit of WD-40 to knock the rotor loose, and then I also have some lube, some brake caliper lube, because I actually ended up re-lubing the caliper sliders on the other side, and then putting a little bit of grease on the springs that hold the pads in place. So that's pretty much it. So I got it set up. I'm going to put this on a tripod and try and move through this as quickly as possible. First thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to remove the caliper remover bolts, which are, this is a 14mm bolt here and here. This is a 17mm. We want to hold this with a wrench while we're rotating these. This is your caliper slider right here. So we're going to pull those out. We're going to pull the caliper off. Then we're going to have to detach the caliper housing, which are 19mm bolts on the back that are really on there. I had to use a breaker bar on the other side to get those loose. We'll pull that all off. We'll pop a new rotor on. We'll clean the rotor, and then we will reinstall the caliper housing and then the caliper with the pads on it. And that's it from there. So let's go ahead and start rocking on that. First thing I need to do is I'm going to put my 17 up here. I'm going to put my 14. Make sure I got this in view here. We're going to go like this so I can see pretty good here. And basically you just got to loosen these up. And I don't have a lot of strength because I have a back problem. So I might have to stand up to really tighten it. There we go. Wasn't too bad. It was only torqued down with like 20 pounds of torque when we finish them off, so it shouldn't be too hard to undo those. The other thing I got to be ready to have is once we pull the caliper off, we got to be ready to hang it here. So let me grab something to hang that on. Can we see that? Okay. Let's see here. There's my wrench down below. I'm going to put my 14 on the other side. Apply opposite pressure here and spin that out. Make sure you keep. I've got this little seat thing that I sit on. Luckily, I can just throw them right back into there. Okay, so sometimes these calipers are really worn, so pull that off of there like that. Looks like I've got that off of there. I'm gonna have to really push these pistons back because look how far extended they are. So I'm gonna have to use a piston pusher and push those really far back later on. But for right now, I'm just going to suspend it. Let's see if this will work pretty good here. Suspend that over there. I think this should hold it pretty good. I don't think it's going anywhere. So now I've got those off. The sliders are here. Those seem to actually be sliding pretty good. I actually stripped one of these sliders on the other side, so I had to replace them. And maybe I'll put a little clip in there about that, but the hard thing now, I got to get these bolts off. These are like 17s. What is this? A 19, I think, actually. What are you? 19. Yeah, it's a 19. So I'm gonna actually grab my breaker bar for that and then put that on there. I got it in there. Can you see pretty good? And now I got my breaker bar. I have to stand up to really lean on that. If you don't have a breaker bar, unless you're like really strong, and I'm not because my back is screwed up, then get a breaker bar, make your life a lot easier. I get most of my stuff at Harbor Freight tools. It's pretty cheap. I think this is like 20 bucks or something. Again, I'm going to go lean on this. Sometimes they're really tight. I actually did the hub, replaced the hub on this side myself a couple of years ago. So I'm actually the one that torqued all this stuff down. So that's all off, loosened anyway. So now I'm just going to go ahead and grab my socket, wherever the socket is here. And we're going to pop those off of there. Off of there, because that would be bad. It would probably break my hose. We're going to do the bottom one. Okay, I probably should have done the top one first, but I'm replacing all this stuff anyway. Do what I'm actually going to do. I'm going to do the lazy man's route here. With this bottom one, I think I can actually get my power driver in here. Reverse. Boom. So much easier on the body. Okay, good. So you can see the orientation of the caliper here. It's actually kind of cool. Kind of came all off with the pads and everything on it. So the pad that has this little vibration thing out here goes to the inside, and then the other pad goes to the outside. Looks like I've got 2 spring clips on this. I think I did these brakes myself not that long ago, maybe 50,000 miles ago or something, but that actually looks pretty good. So this is actually different brake pads. Looks like it's got one of those on the top and on the bottom. You can see that it's got 2 of these springs, which I think I only had 1 on the other side. The other thing that's kind of interesting, these sliders are actually in pretty good condition. It actually looks like the top one is the solid pin. Huh, that's interesting. And the bottom pin is the one with the rubber pin on it. See, this is actually rubber right here. This whole thing right here is actually rubber. So I actually think I put them on backwards on the other side. I was trying to, I took it apart and I didn't really realize there was a difference in them. I had to replace these because they stripped. I over torqued it and stripped one. But it's interesting that the one with the rubber gasket's actually the one on the bottom. And I'm not sure how much of a difference that makes. But now I'm going to have to go on the other side and forget to switch that. That will totally suck. But anyways, let's continue on and replace this. So now that I got that off, well, I'll pull all the hardware and everything off of that in a minute. But the next thing we do is we need to get this off of here. Now, what I had to do before was I had to spray this down with a little bit of lube, because the rotor is on there. And I thought I could just tap it off a little bit, but no such luck. Get this out of here. I kind of get in there behind where the rotor meets the hub, lubing it up, and it's still on there pretty good. So I'm actually going to get a hammer. I don't care if I bang it up a little bit. There you go. Boom. Let me see if I've got this lined up pretty good here. That's better. Okay, good. So now I got the old rotor off. And this one actually isn't nearly as bad condition as the other one, believe it or not. I mean, see, the thickness is actually pretty good compared to the other side. Same thing on the other side. The inside is much thicker than the outside, but it's toast. It needs to be replaced. So there goes that. I am going to take some of my stuff here and kind of clean off some of that WD-40 that I jammed all over there. Got my new rotor. The rotor just pops right on there. Now, the new rotor is covered in grease, so we're going to have to clean this up. So I'm going to clean off this rotor. because I think it ships with like a bunch of grease and stuff on it. Flip it around. Just to make it easier to clean. See, I got my grimy hands all over this friggin' thing. I used a lot of brake cleaner. Nearly a whole can today. Okay. That's that. It's nice and clean. I want to put my greasy hands on this thing. Okay, so we got the new rotor on. I'd be better actually just kind of coming back here a little bit. Okay, so we got the new rotor on. Now we've got to go ahead and put the caliper housing back on. But before I'm going to put the caliper housing back on, I'm going to put all the spring clips and all that kind of, clean this up, take these brake pads off, put the new spring clips in, and then go on from there. So let's just pop all this stuff out of here. The old pads, which are pretty nasty. You can see that that one is actually grinding a little bit. Yeah, those are looking pretty rough. Pull the spring clips off. Got my brake, my fancy dancy brake lubricant here, and I am going to, let's see here. Let's do it like this. Put a little lube on there. You see, this is the one that's got this rubber bushing. In there. Okay, that one's done. So that one was the bottom one. I guess I had a 50-50 shot on the other side and I guessed wrong, so I'm gonna have to redo it. So the hard pin, it's actually on the top. I just figure I got these off, I might as well relube them. Okay, put that back in there, make sure it's moving. Good. Okay, those are relubed. Now, I've got to reinstall these back on there, but before I do that, I want to put my clips in. Okay, so I think I'm actually going to use the ones that came with the actual brake pads. I didn't like those other ones. They did not fit in there good, so put these clips in there. Yeah, these fit better. See, I got that clipped in there, just like that. Here's the other one. There it is. Okay. Okay, those clips are in there. Okay, that's good. Now I like to put a little bit of, just a touch of lube. Just a little touch of lube in here. Just a touch, just to kind of keep it from squealing. I'm not sure. I'm sure somebody's gonna comment saying, "You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong." It's okay. I do everything wrong. Okay. So now I got the clips in there. Now it's time to bolt this back onto the vehicle. And it's like this. Like that. I want to make sure I put this in the right orientation. Yep, hard pin on top. Okay. And it's going to go on there like that. And okay, the big bolt goes here. Okay, that lined up. That took some time. Okay, and I am going to do this with power because I'm too lazy. Make sure this stays suspended well. It doesn't fall off anywhere. It's on there. And that gets torqued to 132 or something like that. Okay. So we're going to torque that. I know I'm right in the way, but you got the idea. Okay. Torqued. Good. Let's put the pads in place. Okay, this is my outer pad, and that's my inner pad. There we go. Okay, there's one set in one side. Where is this one on? This side, there's fit right in there. Okay, good. So I got my pads in. Now I need to push my caliper back. So this is not going to be easy. Okay, so I'm going to use my little. So I got this in video here. Okay, so crank this back. These got to go almost all the way back. These pads are really worn, so, and the rotors were really worn, so you could see the calipers were pushed all the way in. So I just have to rotate back and forth between the two different pistons, like this. And I was checking the reservoir before earlier just to make sure it wasn't overflowing. Just slowly squeeze it back. And do this one. Back it off. And this one. I know I probably don't have to go back and forth like this, but I'm not a mechanic. So I'm just doing conservatively. This video, if I haven't said it already, is pretty much for not to learn how to do this because I'm not a mechanic, but it's basically just to show, well, it's one, the next time I do this I can watch my own video and see how I did it before. And the other thing is for other people watching is just to kind of see that just a regular guy can do a job like this. You don't have to be a mechanic. But when it comes to learning how to do this, I definitely suggest watching a different video on a mechanic, somebody that really knows what they're doing. Because I'm just kind of giving you a general idea of what, you know, a regular dude, never been a mechanic. You know, I change oil and do things like that, but I don't, you know, do a lot of car work. But, you know, getting this job done professionally was going to be about $400. And the parts, I did it for about 140 for the brake pads and rotors, and all I had to do by that was some brake fluid. I'm sorry, not brake fluid, brake cleaner, some brake lube. The only extra thing I had to buy was some new caliper sliders because I stripped them on the other side, which wasn't a big deal, but I ended up putting some new caliper sliders in on the other side. So basically just keep pushing these pistons back, and I think I probably got it close to being back enough now. Okay. This is a cheap little tool. I got it at Harbor Freight or something. I mean, a lot of guys just use a pair of channel locks or something, but this is probably a better way to do it. Just going back and forth. And let me take a look at my brake fluid. Oh shit, it is about overflow. I think I'll take a look at that in a second here. Let me show you. That's actually kind of interesting. I actually took my cap off earlier, and you can see I'm going to have to get some fluid out of there. That is pretty interesting. Huh. Which isn't a big deal. I'll just use a syringe and suck some fluid out of there. I actually, you know, cleaned out the whole brake system a couple years ago. Put new fluid in it. Okay, so we've got the calipers pushed back, got the pads on. I'm going to put a little bit of grease on the sides of the here. I'm not sure if you really need to or not, but I'm going to anyways. Okay, one thing I forgot to show is to put this little spring clip back in on the bottom here. My kit only came with one, so I'm just putting one on the bottom. The wheels on. Now I need to see if this is wide enough now. It's not wide enough, so apparently I did not stretch these out enough, so I'm going to go back in. That should be good. Let's see, I've got the like almost 100% all the way back. You see that? Okay, now let's try this. Oh, there we go. We're good now. Okay, good. Now let's push the slider back and push the other slider back. Bolts here. Okay, slides into there like that. Okay, there's one. There's the button. Am I getting this on film? No, probably not. There's the bottom one down here. Just slide that back and forth, make sure I get it. It's not threading for some reason. Not exactly sure why. Okay. We're going to put our 17 on the bottom here. Okay. My back is gonna be hating me tomorrow. Just had to do this myself. Why that is, I have no idea. Okay. Probably spins my finger a little bit. Good. Let's see that actually slides the way it's supposed to. That's good. Now I got to torque those to 20 foot-pounds. It's a lot easier on the other side because you're pushing down, but on this side you're pushing going up, so it's a little harder. Let's get in position here. I think I already hit it. Okay, there's one. Can you see this pretty good? Okay, good. Okay. Okay. That should be all together now. Last thing I'm going to do is use my cleaner here. Clean section of my rag. I'm just clean these rotors off again. Make sure I didn't put good grease on it while I was handling it, you know. Okay, that's it. Okay, I think we're all done. All we got to do is put the all we got is put the wheel back on and we're good to go. We got our new rotors on there, new brake pads. The other thing I got to do is come up here and you can see it didn't quite overflow yet, I don't think. It is really close to overflowing. So I got to suck some of that fluid out of here. I want to have it down to this max area here. But it just tells you how far back I had to push those caliper pistons to get it back to this position. So that's the last thing we have to do is suck some of that fluid out of there. Really what I could do is bleed the brakes from down here because I've got the fitting and all that stuff ready, but I don't really feel like doing that right now. So, and that's it. Pop the tire back on, take her for a test drive.